Public safety must always be the litmus test which determines when pre-trial detention is both lawful and necessary. Joining us now is Nikki Pressley, Texas Director and Chief of Staff for Right on Crime within the Texas Public Policy Foundation. They can be found at texaspolicy.com. Release or not release? Can this person be safely returned to the community pending trial? Nikki Pressley, welcome once again.
Thank you so much, Terry. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Is protecting citizens our government's most basic duty?
Of course, yes, of course it is. And, when it comes to pretrial release, you're 100% correct. The first and foremost question should 100% be release or not release. Can this person be safely returned to the community, whether it be with some conditions on their bail, maybe some monetary bail, or is this person such a threat to the community, maybe because of their offense or their criminal history or their risk profile, that they need to be detained pretrial? And the government has the opportunity to do that. They have the ability to do that. In United States v. Salerno, the Supreme Court ruled that judges can deny bail whenever someone has such a high risk to the community or risk of flight that they cannot be released with any conditions.
Well, Civics 101 lesson right now, Nikki. You've used the term bail a number of times in that response. What is bail and what's the purpose of bail?
Sure. The purpose of bail is to ensure someone's appearance in court, and it's also to protect the public. Bail, there are several different types. There is a monetary bail, a cash bail that you could pay in full to the court, or you could also give a down payment to a bail bondsman who then acts as the surety to your appearance in court in the future. The other option is that you get a personal bond, which a personal bond is sort of like a I promise to come back contract. I promise to come back to court contract. So you don't actually have to pay anything. And so that's why we keep seeing cashless bail. That's the term that President Trump has been using, cashless bail. When he says cashless bail, he's referring to a personal bond where you don't have to pay anything. A lot of people call it a get out of jail free card, I guess, if you want to call it that. But it is just a essentially promissory note that you are saying, I will come back to court. And if I don't, I will pay a monetary bail.
Nikki Pressley is our guest, Texas Director and Chief of Staff for Right on Crime within the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Nikki, what has been the result across the country? What's been the result of cashless bail?
Yeah, we have seen blanket cashless bail policies across the country in several liberal cities, and that has just turned the courthouse into a revolving door. They're allowing repeat criminals, repeat violent offenders to walk free on a personal bond, on a promissory note. That is not good for public safety. That is dangerous to the community. When you see repeat offenders getting out and offending again, murdering someone and getting out and murdering someone again, we have a serious problem in this country. And that is because we are having these blanket cashless bail policies when we really should be making individualized decisions for each person and examining their risk profile. If they're low risk and they can be released to the community on a personal bond, that's great. If they have offense after offense after offense, violence after violence, we need to be detaining that person pre-trial.
Well, Nikki, starting back in 2021, did the Texas Legislature begin to address the bail system and the need to protect the citizens of Texas from violent and sexual offenders by not allowing them to slip back into the community unchecked?
Yes. So in 2021, Texas passed the Damon Allen Act, which is named after a fallen state trooper who was murdered by someone out on bail. So we passed the Damon Allen Act, and it closed a dangerous loophole. It basically prohibits certain violent offenders from receiving cashless bail, receiving those personal bonds. And one thing that we really were working at the same time in 2021 was passing a constitutional amendment to allow judges to deny bail for high-risk violent offenders. Now, it didn't pass in 2021, but this past session in 2025, we did get it across the finish line. So now we have a proposed constitutional amendment going to the voters that would allow judges to deny bail for someone who is accused of murder or aggravated sexual assault. Previously, judges didn't have that option. They were left guessing how high is high enough when it comes to money bail to detain someone pretrial. They could only set an amount as much as they thought that would actually keep that person pretrial if they thought that they were a public safety risk. But now, if this proposed constitutional amendment is approved by the voters, then judges will have the option to deny that person bail and keep them pretrial if they are a threat to the public.
I would venture to guess few are focused right now on the November statewide elections, which will have 17, count them, 1 through 17, Texas constitutional amendments. More on that election and those amendments in the days and weeks to come. Nikki, has Right on Crime and the Texas Public Policy Foundation polled Texans on the issue of the revolving door, cashless bonds, and the judge's right to just let them go? What do Texans say?
Texans are fed up. Texans support a constitutional amendment to deny bail for the most violent offenders. We did some polling. We found that 81% of Texas voters, I believe it was over 70% of Texas Democrats, would approve and support denying pretrial release to the most violent offenders. Texans are fed up. They see the headlines. They see people getting out on violent offenses over and over and end up murdering someone. They feel unsafe, and they want this amendment.
In Texas, has any judge been held liable for releasing a defendant either on a cashless or a low bail, and they go out and commit another heinous crime? Has any judge been held liable, or do they have immunity?
Well, I'm not 100% sure on the answer to that. I do know that we have the Judicial Conduct Commission, and they are in charge of ensuring that judges are following the law. I do not believe that they are liable currently for the decisions that they make unless they are not following current statute and, judicial policies. So, no, they are not liable.
Do we have certain counties where cashless bail and being released on their own recognizance are more prevalent than in other counties? In other words, are the blue counties seeing more of the revolving door than counties that might have a conservative judges on the bench? Do you know?
Yeah, we saw a huge problem in Harris County. I will say the Damon Allen Act in 2021, I think, helped a lot with what we are seeing in Harris County by essentially saying that you cannot give violent offenders a personal bond. So they can't have a cashless bail anymore after the Damon Allen Act.
During this past legislative session, were you and the other policy analysts there at Right on Crime within the Texas Public Policy Foundation, were you and others involved in educating our elected officials on the need for this constitutional amendment?
Oh, yes. Texas Public Policy Foundation and Right on Crime has been working on bail reform, pretrial detention reform, since, I believe, 2017. We have been leaders in this issue. We have been shouting from the rooftops about why our state needed a constitutional amendment and needed to allow judges to detain people pre-trial and deny them bail. We have been leaders on this issue. We educate everyone. We are open to talking to any and everyone. We are up at the Capitol every single day talking about this issue, and we're very proud of the work that we did and getting it across the finish line, and now the voters just have to approve it, and I am confident that they will.
If I may digress again to Civics Lesson 101, not on politics, why the need for a Texas constitutional amendment? Follow-up question will be, why 17? But why do we have to amend the Texas Constitution?
So currently in the Constitution, we have a clause that says everyone has the right to bail unless for capital murder, or if they have previous violent crime convictions. Now, convictions is the key term there. So in order for us to expand that list, we need to amend the Constitution to say who else can be denied. We have a very tight Constitution in Texas, so it was a little bit more difficult, obviously, to get passed because you need 100 votes in the House. You need 2/3 in the Senate, so that means that you do need bipartisan support. But we got it done. This is a bipartisan bill, a bipartisan constitutional amendment, because the polling shows, like I said, over 80% of Texans want this. And I think that our elected officials noticed that and noticed that they needed to do something and do something quick.
Well, what are you and Right on Crime and the Texas Public Policy Foundation doing to educate, inform, and motivate voters to come out this November to vote for or against any or all of the 17 constitutional amendments that'll be on the ballot, along with some local elections, some school board elections? Will this amendment dealing with bail, will it just get lost in all the noise?
I hope not. I don't think so. It's such a big topic because, like I said, people feel unsafe. So I think that people are going to go to the polls and hopefully vote for this. But we are educating people. We are putting out information on every single amendment that will be on the ballot. Very just direct, objective information about what it does, what each constitutional amendment does. Right on Crime continues to post about bail, try to educate via social media. I also have meetings sometimes. I'm doing an event in San Antonio soon. So we continue to do a drumbeat of information and education for the public.
Let me ask a clarifying question there. Through the Texas Public Policy Foundation, you're going to do what? A fact sheet that says, here are the 17 amendments and here's the purpose for each, but you will not recommend a yay, a for or against vote. You'll just put out the information. Is that correct?
That is correct. It will be objective. It will just be facts about each amendment, and then the voters can make their own decision about whether or not they believe that that is something that they want to vote for.
Well, I'm glad to know that you all are putting out the fact sheet. I may contact you all, see if I can print that in my upcoming link letter. And friends, I will ask other opinion leaders what they think about the different 17 constitutional amendments, and then we can give a for or against recommendation. But that's for the days and weeks to come. Nikki Pressley's been our guest, Texas Director and Chief of Staff of Right on Crime with Texas Public Policy Foundation. Find them at texaspolicy.com. Nikki, thanks for this great interview, and don't grow weary doing good.
Thank you so much, Terry. I will not.